boats that Rubio has been shooting out of the water, do you think they are drug boats being sent by Venezuela? Do you think they're working on behalf of the cartels and Maduro's just doing this to try and poke at the US? Do you think they're unarmed so that when they get blown out of the water, they make the US look bad? What do you think is behind this?
The drug operations in Latin America were originated in Russia. The groups that were trained in the narcotics business were trained in Czechoslovakian camps in the 1960s um, by KGB and Czech intelligence people, Czech military intelligence and Russian military intelligence. They had two kinds of camps, and they trained them in the drug business. They infiltrated mafias. The Corsican mafia was the first one, but they basically created these cartels. If you read the LA Times, if you're a longtime reader of the LA Times, you'll know that the Mexican cartel is under the Russian mafia, and that these at one time, all of these the leading South American, the Colombian cartels were laundering money in Spain, and Putin's underlings were there in Spain managing the money laundering. The Spanish government prosecutors caught them out, and I'm not sure they can do that in Spain anymore. But this is all part of Russian black operations. The Cubans have been involved in this. The Venezuelans are involved. I suspect a lot of people in the Mexican government, of course, are connected to this. They bring these drugs into the U.S. The American population, unfortunately, has this huge appetite for illicit drugs, and they've helped to create that appetite, and they want us to keep that, and that's feeding their war machine down there. And of course, I think Trump's not really attacking Venezuela because of the drug boats. And there's plenty of drug trafficking going on, and I'm sure that there probably are the drug boats. I hope they've attacked real drug boats. I would hope our intelligence is good enough for that. But they had a huge heist in I think it was Houston, where it was a record amount of fentanyl that they captured there, enough to poison millions of people. But I think they're going after Venezuela because Venezuela has intermediate missiles, and they're afraid Venezuela is going to get nukes for those missiles. So it's
That
like
was
another Cuban Missile Crisis.
As far as the missiles go. Do you know why Trump or Rubio aren't saying this to the American public? And I've spoken to Venezuelans on X Spaces, and they've said that Trump's no-fly zone has been effective. It's kept militias from Russia and more missiles and more weapons getting into the country. Do you think it has been effective? Because if they do have weapons in Venezuela that could be used against the US, then it'll just be more important than ever to keep Russia and China militias out of the country.
Well, I don't. You mean anti-ship missiles? I know that there are kitchen anti-ship missiles in Cuba. I think we counted 20 something of them from satellite footage. But it requires Russian strategic bombers to launch them, and we haven't seen those in Cuba yet. So they could attack the fleet, but they'd have to bring Russian bombers in or Chinese bombers. These are the strategic bombers that are made to fire kitchen missiles. Kitchen missile goes Mach 4.6 and it can split an aircraft carrier in half. So, or any other ship, a cruiser or whatever. So, but if if the Russians or Chinese reach for that weapon, I don't know that their bombers are going to make it to the airfield. An interesting question. What is hidden in Venezuela? There is a large mountain near Fort Tiuna, near Caracas, which has been hollowed out. It looks like it's been hollowed out under Russian direction. There's a huge number of cement mixers. There's massive rebar. They've pulled huge amounts out of this mountain, and they've built firing tubes for intermediate ballistic missiles into that mountain. I would assume there's double track rail line running in there. I would assume there's intermediate missiles in that mountain with an elevator system for reloads. My guess is that they can hit the United States with intermediate range missiles now. Watch out, Miami. But they probably don't have the warheads yet. Although under that mountain, they could have smuggled some warheads in. We don't know. And this is a big concern because President Kennedy quarantined Cuba over this in 1962, October, the missile crisis. I think we have that going on now. except nobody's saying anything publicly about it. Kennedy went on TV at the time and told the American people what was going on, which was quite scary at the time. Um, but this situation, I suspect this is what's happening, but I can't prove it. And we need to watch because it is rather unusual for the United States to gather such a force so quickly and put such pressure on Venezuela.
And as far as how this could go, do you think it could go in a positive direction? Because Trump has tried different options. He's publicly put a bounty on Maduro's head. He's called for him to resign and for the people to rise up and to have an election. He's trying to put pressure on Maduro to leave office.
It
Do
didn't
you
work with Saddam Hussein, and it's not going to work with Maduro.
Right, so do you think a revolution could work out in a positive way for the US? Do you think that the surrounding countries may take advantage of this? Because, again, I've had Venezuelans tell me in private conversations that they believe Lula in Brazil and Nicaragua and Mexico won't be able to take advantage of it.
Right now, Lula in Brazil is pretending to be Trump's friend, which is a bit odd. Trump seems to openly be liking it, but these relationships are all very deceptive. Um, I think the United States has put itself in a position where it's going to have to act against Venezuela soon. There's a rumor that, remember with Iran, we had word that I had word that Iran was going to be attacked, but it didn't happen right away. Trump, remember, he negotiated or he tried to give an ultimatum and then he attacked. I think the same kind of thing is going on. Trump is hesitating. He wants to do it without attacking Venezuela. But I think just like with Iran, he's not getting any cooperation from the Venezuelan side. So unless he backs down, which is very embarrassing for Mr. Trump, would be embarrassing, he's going to have to follow through on his threat. And I have heard that the troops have been primed. There's over 200 cruise missiles ready to strike Venezuela, and that they're going to attack. Um, well, we'll see. Maybe this weekend it's going to happen. Um, they canceled the Christmas leave for all the sailors and soldiers. So there's something's going to go on down there.
And talking about the rest of Putin's allies, he didn't help the Ayatollah when Trump bombed them, similar to how he let Assad fall. He also hasn't helped South Africa when Trump banned them from the G20 summit and stopped giving them foreign aid. Ramaphosa is just fast tracking that country into the dust. And I don't know the exact details, but Hamas and Hezbollah seem to have lost like 20 senior leaders. And since Nasrallah was taken out by Mossad, Hezbollah might be cut off completely because the Lebanese government may end up cooperating with Trump and stop funding them. So they're not doing too well, Israel's enemies. Therefore, can you see this being a slippery slope to where Putin's allies fall, and this could fast track him falling?
Well, Russia and China have this problem where they bungle a lot. So we would be taken over already if they were really as efficient as if they were really 10 feet tall. The problem is they're not. As many mistakes as we make, as infiltrated as we are, they've got this real problem. Their own people steal from them. They just what was it? The deputy defense minister, another one gets arrested for embezzlement. I mean, the amount of embezzling in China and Russia, and they're going through purges, this process in China. It's just they're just a lot more quiet about it. The communist system is a system of theft. When you put people in charge of things, when in the West we have the businessmen, they own their own business. Okay, if you hurt your own business, if you loot your own business, you're destroying your own livelihood and your legacy. But in these bureaucrats, they're just lining their own pocket, buying their own palaces. So this is a problem that they have. Now you talk about Ramaphosa. I mean, this is horrible. The ANC is horrible. It's just a front for the Communist Party of South Africa. The country's going down the tubes. There's nothing good to report there except the gold mines are still operating, right? But you get to Venezuela. Venezuela, we saw Saddam Hussein fall. We've seen the Iranians get beat up rather badly by the Israelis and the Americans. What about Venezuela? Well, there's a difference. Venezuela has Chinese and Russian troops in the country now. That's different. And they are anti-aircraft troops. They're the troops that we have to attack first. Those cruise missiles have to bring down those anti-aircraft systems for our aircraft to fly safely. through that country. And by the way, Trump's no-fly zone is not working. They are still flying in and out of Venezuela. We have not had the nerve to actually shoot anything down yet. So that's a problem. Then you've got Cuba. Cuba is coming out to support Venezuela. Raul Castro, 94 years old, comes out of retirement and heads the Defense Council in Cuba for this emergency. So they are mobilizing everything they have in the region, and they will support Venezuela to the hilt. Now, Putin might say to Trump, "You give me Ukraine, I'll give you Venezuela," but it's going to be Indian giving. He'll take Ukraine and he won't let Venezuela fall. That's my prediction. But the United States, this is our hemisphere. We're really powerful here. This is our front door. If we want to take that place, we can. And there's nothing they can do about it short of nuclear war. And I think it's high time we should liberate Cuba and Venezuela, but it is risking nuclear war. Let's not be too optimistic here. The communists are crazy. These people are nuts and they're violent. But sometimes you got to call their bluff. I mean, Europe called their bluff. We called their bluff in Ukraine, and they did not have the nerve to start a nuclear war over it. They threatened nuclear war to Europe. In 2022, if you interfere, if you support, you're crossing our red line. Well, we crossed 27 of their red lines. Now they are mobilizing for World War III, but they're not doing it yet. So it's an interesting, you have to play the best game you can play. And I think the best game is we've got to remove communism from the hemisphere here. That'll give us more freedom in the Pacific, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to tie down America in its backyard. So we can't help you guys in the Pacific. We can't help Europe. So Trump is going to say, we got to let Europe go. We got to let Japan and Australia and New Zealand go because we're too busy here in our backyard. I think that's what part of this could be. I mean, maybe Putin would sacrifice Maduro for this advantage. Maybe, the Chinese leaders will say, yeah, screw Maduro. Let's just use him as a sacrificial lamb. Could be.